Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and let's talk about the Steam Machine because I needed this, you needed this, the whole industry needed something like this. Let me explain. The Steam Deck is just that machine that gets it, right? Ever since the first one, not even the OLED version, ever since the first one, the Steam Deck gets it. There's a reason why this is the market leader, and it's because Valve has built an incredible ecosystem. And today we get to talk about how it expands. But I always looked at Steam originally as just a great marketplace for video games, and that's predominantly what it is. But when I go in there, I'm thinking summer sales, holiday sales, getting a bunch of games on deep discounts, and likely not beating or even playing all of them, but the deals were just too good. But over time, since 2012, when I really started to use Steam a lot more, the feature set gradually won me over. Little things like community mods that were easy to subscribe to and change my game. But again, when I got the Steam Deck, it all started to make sense. The Steam OS, its gradual takeover, which will be a major point in this conversation. Community-led features like custom controls that you can easily download, so a lot of games were immediately compatible on the Steam Deck, even if they technically weren't. Their guide system, the way that you can force compatibility on some of these games, and of course the customization option. They just have an amazing ecosystem here. So ever since the Steam Deck, I have been begging Valve, like, please go to the living room. More people are going to embrace you because let's be honest, like, PC gaming is a bit of a hassle, and that's why this is a market leader. It took the PC gaming experience, streamlined it a lot more, and it feels like that whole OS experience within the Steam Deck just translates beautifully to the big screen. And again, that's what we're talking about today in the Steam Machine. Indeed, Valve has had themselves quite a day. The Steam Machine has been announced, the Steam Controller is being shown off, and the Steam Frame, Valve's own VR, AR headset. They're going for it, dude. And this is so exciting. New hardware is always exciting, but this is coming out next year. And obviously, as someone who has talked a lot about Xbox, yeah, they're eating their lunch, and I'm totally here for it. Competition in this space is desperately needed. We were gradually entering a place where it was just going to be PlayStation and Nintendo. And while the Steam Machine is predominantly a PC, and it is absolutely stated to be one, which we'll get into, it definitely has a strong chance of being competitive in pricing, something that PC gaming really isn't known for. And if Valve can keep this machine in a very healthy spot, it can go toe-to-toe with any console. And I think that's so exciting because that competition pushes innovation. And so I'm pumped about this because it also means, what software are you going to launch this with? There has never been a better time for a Half-Life 3. But let's talk about this Steam Machine, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of hands-on experiences out there, as a lot of the press alongside sites like Digital Foundry got their hands on this Steam Machine. But the breakdown on Valve's own site is that your Steam library is in more places. With over 6 times the horsepower of the Steam Deck, Steam Machine has the power to play your whole Steam library, including your favorite AAA titles. Just sign in with your Steam account and your entire library is there. This is why Valve hardware is such a win, because so many of us, even those of us who don't have a PC, will sometimes make a Steam account and plan to buy a PC one day. And so we'll build up that library because, again, the deals that you get on Steam are just stupid. The actual form factor itself, I think, is fine. I'm not going crazy about it because I wasn't going crazy about the Series X, and this is literally the Series X cut in half. I do like, as they show here in the LED strip screenshot, that there's a front panel that you can take off and customize, knowing that Valve is usually pretty chill about things, unlike kind of what PlayStation was doing with their PS5 plates. I can't wait to see what Valve does with custom plates for this thing, especially because they have a lot of great IP, but also I think fans will be able to make some really cool ones for this. But they showed like a vinyl wood one, they showed a graffiti one, so I like that. Overall, it looks like when the device is on, looks solid. It's a kind of how I described the Nintendo Switch 2 and the Series X. I think it looks fine. It's just like, I'm not out of my seat about it, but it kind of matches, like, look at the Steam Deck, you know, it kind of matches that look. So I think it looks fine. Where it really gets interesting is here. Optimized for gaming. It runs SteamOS. Steam Machine runs Valve's gaming-first operating system. SteamOS is designed to provide a plug-and-play user experience while keeping power and flexibility of a PC. Experience SteamOS in the same way as other Steam hardware like the Deck and frame, and they're expanding the verified program to include ratings for the Steam machine. This has been super useful when it comes to the Steam Deck. So when you see that green check mark, you know it's going to run on this thing. Now, there are plenty of games that don't have the green check mark that run fine on this. Sometimes it's just like not verified because the text is a little small, but there's usually community fixes for that, or frankly, it's not a big deal at all. But expanding that verification program, I think, is great. Again, that ease of use is so key to, I think, expanding what Valve is doing to gamers that are less PC inclined. But that gets into Steam OS, which is a really big deal. Obviously expected, but this is going to go head to head with what Xbox is doing in 2027, where they're having a Windows-led PC in your living room. Steam OS, as it has been documented many times before, has shown to have better battery life, better flexibility, better optimization, and just getting more out of your games, which is affecting performance and those sorts of things. So to have this here is huge, no doubt about it. If you get the price right, and we'll talk specs in a little bit here, this is all coming together to be something that's like perfect for me, an easy day one. However, Valve is just letting you know, they say it's a PC. Yes, Steam Machine is optimized for gaming, but it's still your PC. Install your own apps or even another operating system. Who are we to tell you how to use your computer? Now, for me, it's just like a content creator. I find this to be really exciting because gameplay capture is like a big thing for me, but I have my PC here in my office where I work a lot, and sometimes I want to game in other rooms, but I still need to capture gameplay. That's why I started to get into things like Steam Deck or other handhelds that would allow remote streaming, because I would start the capture here at my computer and I'd leave the room with a handheld. But obviously having a smaller, more living room friendly PC that I could put somewhere in my house and actually capture gameplay on that thing is just like huge for the flexibility and the way it unlocks my brain and where I can play within my house. So just that alone is great, but that's great for everybody. This means that if you're a Windows user but you want to buy a Steam machine for cheap, you can do just that. This obviously also means you can go on the back end, get some emulation going, all that sort of stuff that Valve themselves has openly promoted, like when they had Yuzu in their own trailer, which was crazy to see. But anyway, they start to break down playing Steam wherever Steam is. And yeah, the controller is a bit of an abomination. They basically just remove this screen in the middle and put these two together. And so the two kind of touchpads here are just like right there below the analog stick and everything. So, I mean, it's different, and it reminds me of the Duke in a lot of ways. And I have a lot of love for that controller, but it's a big one, that's for sure. But that can pair well with your Steam machine and can pair well with your Steam frame. They say it's great for streaming. With enough horsepower to take on the most demanding games, Steam Machine is the perfect host PC for streaming to other devices like your Steam Deck, frame, or any other device running Steam or Steam Link. A great example of that is a device like this. So if it's got Steam Link on it, you can stream to it, which I think is really cool. So again, that's that kind of remote play functionality that consoles have started to embrace a lot more. So the ecosystem is here now. I mean, you look at this image here of the Steam Deck, the controller, the machine, the VR headset. Like, Valve is here. This is a statement right here. Like, there's a reason they're doing all of this at once and just letting you be completely washed away by a ton of hardware news, because it's all here. It's a complete ecosystem. We're 1 year away from just having all of these things working together, and like, you don't need anything else. I think that's awesome. Now, what about the specs? What's inside the Steam machine? Well, for the CPU, they say it's a semi-custom AMD Zen 4 6C12T with up to 4.8 gigahertz. As for the GPU, it's a semi-custom AMD RDNA 3 with 28 CUs at 2.45 gigahertz. It's got 16 gigabytes of RAM with 8 gigabytes of VRAM, and there will be two models for the Steam machine, the 512 gigabyte SSD and the 2 terabyte SSD. Both of these models are said to include a high-speed micro SD card slot. Now, Valve is claiming this is a 4K 60 machine. And based on what I've watched online and some of the research I've done here, especially with Digital Foundry, this looks like a machine that should get you a lot of performance, but there are going to be some games where it's going to be a close call. Obviously, Valve demoed what would be the best games for this Steam machine. One of the demoists from Digital Foundry talked about turning on ray tracing within Cyberpunk, and the frame rate did drop down to the 30s. This is going to be an interesting conversation because I think, and I say this with all due respect because I love Digital Foundry, but like tech geeks like them kind of went in a little more timid on this. And I'm going to be interested to see how the market responds to this, because I don't think people care, dude. Like, I think ray tracing or not, like, this doesn't make a difference for us, because if the image quality on screen is good, that's kind of what I think matters nowadays. It's dramatically impacted, as I've talked about in the past with other games on specifically Unreal Engine 5, how art direction is handled in our industry, where, again, people just want something that can kind of look nice and run well. And that's all that matters. And I think people are willing to even take a resolution hit on that. Why do I say that? Look at the Switch 2. I mean, the Switch 2 is a perfectly fine piece of hardware. All people wanted was to run their Switch games a little better and look a little prettier. And that was kind of it. So this seems perfectly fine, and Valve has said that they've kind of taken the hit a little bit on the GPU front, specifically because they want the pricing to be competitive here. And I think that matters. That's targeting a consumer need now, and that'll likely be a sustained need. Gaming is getting really expensive, and that's because everything around us is getting more expensive. I would rather take a little bit of a spec hit to have something that's far more affordable and appealing. Why do I say this? I mean, we know what Xbox is doing, right? A very similar thing, but we've heard how it's going to be premium, high-end, very special type of gaming PC, easily $1,000 plus. This Steam machine can definitely come in under $1,000. I have no doubt about that, but how cheap can it go? If Valve is going to shoot for low and start to compete with the likes of PlayStation 5 and Switch 2, now we're really talking here. And for me, that is exciting. You know, we've seen recent comments from PlayStation talking about how the PS5, for example, is really here to stay, and that they're in the middle of their lifespan for that. But yet we're saying that, and we're looking at the clock, and it's like, oh, but we're in 2 years, we're going to be talking about PS6. What do you mean it's in the middle of its lifespan? Well, that's because systems like that are going to be hanging around more, and the power within the Steam machine is comparable to today's kind of current gen devices, where it's going to be relevant. And especially when Valve has shown, like right here, I have the OLED. They'll do a better version of the Steam machine, no doubt. That'll be more powerful, more optimized, more efficient. Like, they'll do it. No one knows what the pricing is going to be yet. While Valve has insisted that they want it to be as affordable as possible, they said the pricing would be comparable to a PC with similar specs. They intend for it to be positioned closer to the entry level of the PC space, but to be very competitive with a PC that you could build yourself. Now, The Verge kind of did a little bit of math on this one to match the parts that are in the Steam machine, and it floats somewhere around $800 to $1,000. With affordability being a top priority, I feel like you have to at least beat out the PS5 Pro here, which is at $750 right now. But keep in mind that this is a new piece of hardware entering a market and trying to break the mind share beyond the hardcore gamers and get people like your mom, your grandma, knowing who Valve is. And I think a good price around a holiday window could do just that. And so I feel like you could also see them attempt to eat some cost here and maybe even get it cheaper to compete with whatever PlayStation's doing, whatever Nintendo's doing. And of course, given Xbox is going premium, that's already kind of a done deal there. Still, the price is currently anyone's guess. A lot of folks are worried, understandably so, that they've left that part out, whereas with the Steam Deck, they were pretty much out there with that price tag. But I think ultimately, because of the situation Valve is in, they're going to try to shoot for something more competitive, but we can reassess that part of the conversation when we get there. They also announced today, and I do have much less to say about this, but the Steam Frame. They say it's your game in every dimension, VR and non-VR gaming. The Steam Frame is a streaming-first wireless VR headset and controllers that can handle your whole Steam library. Step into immersive VR or lean back and enjoy your non-VR catalog, and it supports standalone play too. So yeah, this is kind of Valve's competitor to the Meta Quest 3. It's another big one, man, because the Meta Quest 3, like, I mean, it's the market leader, but that's not saying much because, like, the Quest 3, for as great as the software has been, I mean, they've had a lot of great IP in there. You know, there was Arkham Shadow, Asgard's Wrath. I do think the new Deadpool game looks really interesting and so on. Like, there's plenty of examples. There's zombie games in there. There's so much that's on Quest 3. That's great. But the problem is, when you look at the sales for it, it hasn't been fantastic. And especially when you look at how much Meta has spent on it, like millions and millions and millions of dollars lost on this thing. Valve stepping in and being like, hey, here is your own standalone VR device. We're going head to head with them. And they've shown that they can make great VR games like Half-Life Alyx. Again, oh boy, dangerous times. So they're going for everyone's lunch. and I love it. I'm less interested in this because I still have such a massive VR catalog to catch up on. I haven't even played Half-Life Alyx. I mean, hey, here's the roast of the video that you can make fun of me for. I haven't even played like Half-Life at all. So I got to get to that. But maybe Valve will make it worth my while and announce Half-Life 3 finally. We'll see. I just never wanted to get caught on that cliffhanger. I decided to wait, and I think it's going to pay off because it feels like it's coming. But ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this across the Steam machine and the Steam frame and the Steam controller. I'm pumped. I love new hardware, but I love what Valve's doing because I think the space sorely needs it. I mean, they have such a good ecosystem and they're coming with a vengeance. So let me know what you're thinking down below. Other than that, though, I'll catch all of you in the next one. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.